Hey 307, how you doing? No, there's no way I'm gonna start every video like that, but Emily, I'm thinking of you. Update from 2 weeks ago. Both of my midterms went well. I had the first midterm that 2 Mondays passed when I made a video, and that did alright. It was an in-class essay writing kind of midterm, which is not my favorite kind of midterm. I always am like, oh no, what do I write? And then I don't do as well as I could have if I had more time. Fortunately, we have a final paper for that class, so that'll be superb because I'll have plenty of time to research. It was the same kind of test last Monday when I didn't make a video because I was cramming for it. We wrote like 3 little essays in an hour, and it was good. After that test, I was like, oh, if I don't have to think about the Arab-Israeli conflict again, I will be so happy. But then, if you recall, that weekend I had plans to go to the West Bank. Well, I didn't go to the West Bank. It was me and 2 people from DU, actually, so you might know them or have heard me talk about them before. And then a friend of ours from here, and he's Indian, he's Muslim, and he's been like to every country you could think of that maybe Israel wouldn't want you to go. But we went up to the border with 2 of our Jewish friends from the program and 2 Palestinian friends from the program. Well, one of them is really Palestinian. Her father is half Lebanese, and her mother is like half Palestinian. And just having that kind of background, we knew that, you know, we were probably going to be at the border for a while. Well, our 2 Jewish friends went on through, and they made it all the way to Jerusalem. Me and the DU people stuck around because they had to clear our Muslim friend before we could go to Jerusalem and get our hostel. And then they also had to clear our Palestinian friend. So we waited there. We went in the evening, which was a good idea because no one was there. Very little traffic at the border at the time of night we went, which was great. The border didn't close till 1. We were perfect. It was like 8 o'clock when we finally made it on the bus over to the Israeli side. And it was at 1 o'clock that they told our Muslim friend that, you know what, they cleared him. He was good to go on through. But they told our Palestinian friend that they didn't have time or resources to keep processing her tonight, and she should come back in the morning because, of course, they sent security home before the border closed. This is the nice version of what went down. It was a really frustrating experience. We did fortunately get to all wait together. There were lots of people who were detained after us, but they all got to go through, but our half Lebanese, quarter Palestinian friend was not cleared to go through the border. She's American, like we were all Americans. So it was a really frustrating experience, especially because the Israeli officials there were really rude. They were really rude and really smug, and it just made the whole thing just exponentially more frustrating. And I can talk about it now and just be kind of removed from it, but this is reality for lots of people who want to go back to their homelands. That's the basics of what happened. The hardest part, I think, was that there was nothing we could have done differently to make it turn out any different. Like, it didn't matter what we did. They weren't gonna let our friend through. Even though they cleared us, since they didn't clear our Palestinian friend, we all turned around at 1 in the morning and headed back to Amman. They made us pay to take the bus back to the Jordanian side of the border because they wouldn't let us stay on the Israeli side overnight. And then we had to pay to take a cab back to Amman, and we made it back to our apartments at 4:30 a.m. It was a really long night. We were really frustrated, and it was awful. And we weren't even gonna visit Israel anyway. It was just, it's kind of like gross, you know? Israel is occupying this territory. Like, it's not theirs internationally. No one recognizes the West Bank as Israel because it's illegally occupied. So we're just crossing into the West Bank. On a trip I took on Saturday then, since I wasn't in Jericho, we saw Jericho from the Jordanian side of the border. And that was just like, great, there it is. It was a terrible experience. Which I don't think I'm conveying to you properly. It was awful. But all of us who did, get cleared agreed that it was a really important experience to have because we understand where this conflict is coming from. Like, Oh, it was so, I mean, humiliating for our friends and just really frustrating to us because we couldn't do anything about the illegal border control that we were trying to get through. We weren't even going to be in Israel at all on this trip. We were going to be in Jerusalem, and then we were going to be in Bethlehem and Hebron and Jericho and maybe Ramallah and just other places in the West Bank. We were not even going to set foot on Israeli ground. We didn't, I mean, you shouldn't need their permission to go through. What I learned in one of my classes about Jordan and the Arab-Israeli conflict, the West Bank used to be Jordan's. Jordan used to have control of the West Bank and Jerusalem. But in 1967, that all reversed when Israel took it, and it's just been occupying it ever since. I will be going back to the West Bank. Some friends and I, probably a different group, we're gonna make it over one of these weeks. And so I'm really looking forward to getting that on the ground view of what this conflict is like in like Bethlehem and Hebron especially, because I've been told you can really see like the tension between the Palestinian residents and the Israeli settlers that are living there. But right now all I've got is a border control fiasco which was enough to make anyone really angry. I've been talking for a while now. This might be a long video. If this video ended up being long, I apologize, but I don't, because this is a really important issue, and it makes me really glad I'm studying here. The difficult part coming from this experience is trying to keep that open mind, that, you know, like forgiving kind of attitude, because what we experienced and what, you know, I can't even fathom all these Palestinians in Palestine and abroad feel is just a profound sense of injustice and a lot of hypocrisy, and it's really awful. If you have any questions about anything I just said, because I don't know how much sense it's gonna make, just shoot me a comment below and I can expound further. I have a lot to say on this, but a lot of it is not very nice. And so this is after processing it a lot for several days. I'm trying to be neutral about this, and that could even be a problem, being neutral about something. Neutrality, like that passivity, only helps the oppressor. And so I'm trying to develop a, you know, socially aware, productive kind of view of the situation, and I'm trying to like bridge the conflict in the future, because there's definitely been, since our border fiasco Wednesday night, like kind of like a tension between us and our Jewish friends who went on ahead of us. And so that tension alone is been kind of hard to deal with. So it's like our own Palestinian-Israeli conflict, but on a smaller scale. And it's a lot easier to work out differences between two people when you have two large groups with legitimate historical grievances against each other. It's a lot harder to breach that conflict. When I was trying to process all this stuff, I went and watched the Vlogbrothers video from 2008 when Israel invaded the Gaza Strip. And so I'll link to it below. It's just John talking over footage of Bubbles the nerd fighting Puppy. So you can enjoy that, but he just basically talks about the Arab-Israeli conflict, I think, in a more basic, but, you know, comprehensive way than what I'm going to give you right now. Because what I've got right now are a lot of confused ideas and a lot of discontent. I uploaded pictures yesterday from tours of biblical sites in Jordan, which included the Jordan River, which is where the West Bank and the East Bank come from. Jordan's the East Bank. It was really awkward to see a Jordanian side of the river and an Israeli-occupied Palestinian side of the river, and with armed guards and tourists and everything. It was uncomfortable. So check those out. I'll talk to you guys later.